G'day guys, welcome to another episode of Prado 120 Adventures. On this episode we're going to be looking at replacing the wheel bearing, front wheel bearing on the Toyota Prado. Mine's developed a little bit of play in it, and as soon as you get any play in these bearings, they're a sealed unit, so there's no adjustment, so they need to be replaced. You can buy the actual wheel bearing itself, which is a square piece with 4 bolt holes through it, but you need to have the hub, which is the part with all your wheel studs in it, pressed in and out. So there you can see the square wheel bearing and the hub, and where they're pressed together there's a seal in the middle as well. So this time, after doing 3 different wheel bearings on my car, I've decided to try buying a whole replacement unit and doing it that way, because that negates the need to have to take this assembly to a workshop, have them press things in and out and get seals done and pay extra money. So anyway, so I've got myself a new hub and bearing there to go in the car, and some other bits and pieces to do while the hub is off and I can do some stuff. So yeah, we're going to get straight into it and show you the tools you're going to need. Not much really here, is there? Got a breaker bar here for undoing bolts. We need our 21mm socket to get the wheel nuts off. We've got a 17mm spanner, that's for the actual hub, 4 bolts to take off. Some sockets and things. You'll need a 17mm to take the actual brake caliper off the back of the hub, and of course you're going to need a big socket for your drive shaft nut. So 35mm is the correct size for the drive shaft nut. Most people say 36 because it's a lot easier to find a 36mm socket, but 35 fits perfectly on the drive shaft nut. So that's the size you want to go for. I got mine from Tool Pro, I think. It was a little bit pricey, but it fits perfectly and it goes on the breaker bar. So that's what you need to get your drive shaft nut off to get the thing apart. So let's get stuck into it. Right, this is good. Extra leverage, more torque. Oh, there we go. So what I do with the caliper whenever I have to remove it is, even though it has this hard brake line behind it, which you may remember from when we did the braided brake lines, speaking of which, still there, still bloody awesome. They can bend, but trying to get them back into position is a bit of a nightmare. So what I do is I actually remove this nut here, which is a 12mm, and that holds this bracket on that connects it to the flexible brake line. So I remove that, and then that way when I take the 2 bolts off the back of the caliper, the whole thing can move on the flexible brake line rather than on that hard rigid brake line, which will eventually fatigue and then crack. So once that's out of the way, we want to just grab an ocky strap or something and hold that caliper up and out of the way so it's no tension on it. So usually I run an ocky strap around the caliper. Usually I grab onto one of these slides with an ocky strap, bring it up and then just wrap it around the top of the control arm and keeps it all out of the way. So we'll get to doing that.
To be.
This rotor off, get access to our hub. So with the rotor out of the way, you can finally see the actual hub and I think they call it spindle or something, hub and bearing assembly. So that's the actual square bearing behind there with these 17mm bolts holding it in, which is an absolute fun job to try and get to. You can kind of see there's an oil seal behind there, which helps to keep water and dirt out from the actual bearing. And obviously you've got this backing plate for your brake rotor. Now if your wheel bearing or this hub assembly hasn't been off for a long time, or if your wheel bearings haven't been done recently, then you may find that there's a bit of corrosion between the hub and the plate and the actual spindle, which is the piece of metal behind it that it all bolts to. In which case you may need to get a screwdriver and put it between the backing plate and the hub and try and pry it apart. Luckily enough, I put a little bit of penetrating fluid on mine last time, so it's able to come off nice and easy. But if not, just a screwdriver or even a like a paint scraper between the two, just to help pry the two apart. You'll break that seal and then it should come off nice and easy. Here it is coming off. There we go. So you can see that's the bearing in there. One other thing I'd like to show you as well while I've got the hub off, I think I've tried a few times to show it, but it's kind of hard to see with everything in the way, is your ABS/wheel speed sensor, which is here. So there's a wire going up and takes off to your ABS wire and heads off into the body. But this is the actual wheel speed sensor, or the ABS sensor. There's one of these in each hub, front and back, and there's a real simple device. I mean, you just take them out. They've got a little X-head Allen key that you take them out with. If we can get it coming into focus. And then the actual sensor itself sits inside here. So that usually is just off the actual drive shaft, and it's covered in grease and everything while it's in there. And as it's spinning, it will pick up a signal from that drive shaft and from the bearing as well. So you need to make sure that if you've got ABS in your Prado, you get an ABS compatible bearing, because they'll be built slightly differently. So now we can look at reassembling this hub. So this backing plate, I've just given it a quick coat of paint to make it look nice and fresh. Sits on there. There's a small dowel on the back that meets in with here to locate it. So it'll sit like that. However, because it'll just flop around because nothing's holding it there. So the best way to do it is to actually get your bearing. Again, I've put a little bit of grease here anywhere that is going to meet up with a rubber seal. So like on this outer edge, I'll put a little bit of grease there to help keep water out. So we'll just put this on the shaft to start. Like that. This around. Push one of these bolts, a few of these bolts through here. And it's just a matter of bringing that in. So once all four of your bolts are started, you can get to work with your spanner and tighten it all up. Try to tension up these bolts as evenly as possible to try and pull the whole hub nice and evenly to the surface. So there we go, brand new hub on there. All we have to do now is put the new rotors on. We have to do up this drive shaft nut with a new split pin on it, and then we can install our brand new brake caliper as well. So I'm using Bendix four-wheel drive pads. I've always had really good luck with these. They've done really well. They don't squeal. They bed in really well, and they're not too expensive either. There's a lot of debate over what brake pads are better, and whether genuine's the best or whatever. But I've got these, so I'm going to install these ones. So you'll buy them. Front brake pads are different to rear, so just make sure you're always getting front brake pads for a Prado. That's how they'll come. I'll show you brake pads. So on the Bendix ones, they actually come marked with where they should actually go. So on the inside part here, it'll say Bendix, the part number, which is DB1482, and that will say four-wheel drive. This one says inside right, so this is the right side of the car, so this will go on the inside, and this is to go on the outside. Outside will be whichever one. So basically inside will be towards the center of the car. So these springs at the bottom, these squealing springs, so when it gets low, these will actually make a large squealing sound and let you know it's time to change over your brake pads. So every single time you'll need to remove the split pins out of these slides. So just pull out a pair of pliers like that. Keep them, very easy to lose them. Pull the slides out the way. Now we can put in our brake pads. So this is the outside one. They just slide straight in like that. Again, make sure that your brake pistons are pushed all the way in. Put that one in there as well. There we go. Now always do the bottom slide first. So again, you can basically slide them any which way you want. I prefer to try and keep, so you see on the slides they've got kind of a button head end and one with a hole running through it. I try to put that on the inside just to keep it away from any mud or anything getting in there. So it just slides through there. It'll go through the hole in the back of the brake pad like that. It'll slide in, go through the other one, and then back out the other side. And once you've got that in position, you can grab one of your little R clips and push that back on. There we go, and that locks that into place. Now for this top one, you're going to need, this will obviously come on your cars as standard, but you'll have a funny little M-shaped spring like this. Now it's actually got a bit of a funny shape to it. What you want to make sure you're doing is you have these outside prongs will go into the side of your brake pads like so, like that. I've actually got one upside down. But essentially you want it so that you have, I don't know how well that comes up, but you can see that sort of flat and then it drops down and jumps around. You'll know when you've done it right because you'll put the two ends in, and then when you push the other sides down, they should sit so you can pass this slider straight through, and it goes through the pad and through the gap in the pin, through the spring clip, and then out the other side. There's only two ways of doing it, so if it doesn't look right, try it the other way and you'll probably find that's the correct way there. And then put your R-clip on the other one as well. And that's it. That's as easy it is to change the front brake pads on these cars. So that pretty much wraps up this episode. I hope you enjoyed watching how to change a wheel bearing. Also showed how to change over a brake rotor or brake disc, and also changing your brake caliper and putting in new brake pads in the front of the car as well. I've got to do the same to the other side of the car, but since you've already seen how to do it, there's no use showing you twice. So thanks for watching everyone. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll get back to you. Thanks.